dedicated her life to elevating the voice and the power of women of color as political leaders. Please, again, join me in welcoming my friend. And the baton is yours again to the wonderful Amy Allison.
Thank you so much, Jamie, and all of the state party chairs. When Jamie, you said this was like Black Power is in the room, it was an incredible conversation. Thank you so, so much. And if you're just joining, I just want to say we are State of the People. We're in hour 17 of a 24-hour marathon. Black excellence, analysis, journalists, thinkers, organizers, activists, people from all walks of life. I'm joining from Oakland, California, and people from the South, the Midwest, the East Coast. I mean, we're everywhere, and Black people are leading everywhere. And it's starting to get into mainstream media where they're taking note to what we're doing. Black people are planning. We're standing up, we're strategizing, and we're powerful. And so I hope you'll stay with us at 9 o'clock. We'll be 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock East Coast time. We're going to continue these conversations at our next segment, and the final one that I have the honor of introducing before my time as anchor wraps, although this broadcast will continue all the way to midnight. The next segment is Straight Talk from the Front Lines with Maurice Mitchell, Ana Lilia Mejia, Nicholas O'Rourke, Christina Livingston, Jumaane Williams, and Representative, my Congresswoman, Lateefah Simon. Let's kick it off, Maurice. So good to have you with us.
Well, Amy, I tell you what, it's okay. It's okay because
Ed, you know what? Even better, Ed.
Listen, it's been a long afternoon for you, and we've got a lot of people still to come. So what I'll do is I'll just say congratulations to you. You did a yeoman's job, and though you've stolen my thunder introducing Mo, we'll get to that in just a minute.
Well, listen, it's all yours, Ed, and have a wonderful next 4 hours.
All right, Amy, thanks so much. Greatly appreciate it. Great job. As Amy suggested, we are about to bring you yet another hour, but we should note that we are an hour away from Donald Trump's joint address to Congress. But more importantly, as Amy began to tell you, we're an hour away from our town hall meeting, which will bring truth to power. Angela Rye and Roy Wood Jr. will host that town hall. That's coming up. You know, you just heard about the importance and the power of states in the coming years as we move to try to solidify the world as we know it. We can't overemphasize the importance of states. And we can't overemphasize the importance of families because that is the lifeblood of all of us. And as we have seen over the course of the last few weeks and months, families are being hit hard by virtue of the economy and certainly the many layoffs that we've been seeing, particularly in the federal government. And so, as Amy said, we are about to turn it over to Maurice Mitchell, National Director of the Working Families Party. Mo, we're going to bring you in and let you introduce your guest, and you can take it from there. I see we have Reverend Mark there, who is in the Capitol, and he'll be bringing us some information from there. So there is Mo. Mo, we're going to give it to you. You got the next hour, and I'll be back on the other end to introduce the town hall.
Thank you so much, Ed. Black media royalty. So appreciate the handoff. It's really, really good to be with everybody today. My name is Maurice Mitchell. I'm the National Director of the Working Families Party. The Working Families Party is a grassroots political movement and third-party movement that believes this crazy idea that in a democracy, the people should govern, not corporations, not billionaires, not the wealthy and well-connected, the people. And every single day at the Working Families Party for the past 26 years, we've worked with the people, everyday working class people, in order to build a grassroots democracy that honors their contributions to this society. We're on this historic live stream where so many Black voices have gotten up from media, from grassroots organizations, from politics, to join in a unified voice to say that this is not business as usual and something is terribly wrong. We're joined today because people recognize, especially working class Black folks, we understood the assignment in November and we understand the assignment now. we recognize who and what MAGA is, who and what Project 2025 is, who and what Elon Musk is, and what their actual designs are. This is probably one of the greatest smash and grab robberies that we've ever witnessed. The destruction of critical services to working people all over the country, disguised as somehow trying to get at race, fraud, and abuse. The greatest abuse, the greatest fraud is happening right in front of us. Believe your eyes and ears. Don't believe what they say, believe what they do. And so I have the honor to bring folks who have been fighting on the front lines to be in this conversation. We're going to be joined by folks in local office who are standing up. I know that some people have been disappointed because they're not seeing the leadership that they want to see in some spaces. I'm here to say that all elected officials are not made the same. All Democrats are not made the same. And there are people who are leading, who are fighting back, who understand that this is a time for opposition on the local level. And so this panel is about the grassroots leadership. We'll be joined by Nicholas O'Rourke, who is a Philly City Council member who is fighting the good fight. Christina Livingston, who is the executive director of ACE, a grassroots organization building power in California and building the Working Families Party. We'll be joined by Ana Lilia Milla, who is the executive director of Popular Democracy, a national organization building people power from the ground up. And this is an opportunity for us to hear from people who are building the Working Families Party and doing the work on the ground to hear exactly what's going on. So let's start with you, Christina. How you doing?
Come off mute. Hi, I'm doing well. How are y'all doing?
We're doing well. It's so good to see you. It's so good to hear from you. I was just with you not too long ago in California, where we at the California Working Families Party, we're talking about strategy. We're talking about this moment. We're going to get to Latifah Simon's speech later and get to the other guy's speech later. Outside of those two speeches, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, thanks for asking. You know, I'm really stricken by sort of the paradox of this moment. Like, on the one hand, it feels like we're obviously, there's no denying we're in a moment of massive transition, right? Like the old way of being in this country is dying in this moment. And it's leading to this uncovering of actually how important all of our individual actions are, right? As an organizer on the doors for decades, I've heard people talk about how little their voice matters. And there were so many ways that I couldn't deny that, right? I had to recognize that in a myriad of ways, people's voices were being stifled. But in this particular moment, that doesn't hold true anymore, right? Like our willingness to stand up, our willingness to take space, our willingness to connect to people, to challenge what seems like foregone conclusions, like that all really matters right now. And our ability to do that emboldens other people's ability to do that. Like it matters in a very different way. So that's on the one hand. And at the same time, the day-to-day work of fighting against poverty and fighting against exploitation and, you know, the dehumanization of folks and the erasure and scapegoating of folks, that all feels so familiar to our people. So that paradox is really on my mind a lot. But I guess I just am starting to feel like maybe we're at a point where the conditions of the time are like catching up to the ideas that we've been baking for the last 50 or 60 years since the civil rights movement. Like it feels like in some ways it feels the same to us because we've been dreaming up how to get past this moment for so long that I'm really interested in figuring out how to use this moment powerfully to get us where we need to go.
Use this moment powerfully to get us where we need to go. I couldn't say it better myself. I want to bring in Nicholas O'Rourke because you're governing every single day on the ground in the city of Philadelphia. So Nick, same question. What's on your mind today?
So thank you for the opportunity to be able to talk about this and to be on with you all tonight in light of what is about to happen in about an hour or so. What's on my mind today is the importance of governing at the local level, in light of everything that's going on at the national level, with the as Christina lifted up, with the shift that is happening as it relates to what we believe um, is important as it relates to the national level. At this point, governing at the local level, at the municipal level, will help us get as close as possible to protecting our people. I'm thinking about making sure the folks within our city, the queer community, the migrants that live in our city, that worship in our city, that actually provide food in our communities, are protected and have access to the information they need to protect themselves in light of the onslaught at the moment. And so I think I'm grateful. I was having this conversation with some colleagues and friends over the past couple of days about how things have shifted from the first Trump administration to this one. When I was in the first Trump administration, I was an organizer on the ground in the streets, activist, and organizer, and advocate, all of those sorts of things. But now I have the responsibility of governance over the sixth largest city in the country, as a lawmaker. And so, in many ways, while I may miss the energy of being on the concrete, boots to pavement, being in the streets, I also have a focused responsibility now that allows me to think about ways that we can materially and measurably improve the lives of working people in spite of what may be happening at the national level. And I think many folks would be looking for that. So I see this moment obviously as a challenge. I'm mindful of those who are suffering in this moment, also as an opportunity. This is the time where, as we said all the time, all politics is local. We can really lean into that right now. And I'm hoping that as folks unfortunately may see the light at the end of the tunnel getting dimmer as it relates to the national things, that they see the light getting brighter at the local level. And I look forward to encouraging other folks to pay attention there as well.
That's right. All politics are local, and presidents aren't kings, and power is diffuse in this country. So especially on the local level, there's so many opportunities to form the opposition, to be on the front lines, and you're doing that work every single day, Nick. So thank you so much. Ana Lily, I want to bring you into the conversation. You have done work as an advocate and an organizer on the local level. You've advocated for policies and passed laws in state houses. You've helped build mighty coalitions. You've worked at the heights of politics on the presidential level, and you've worked in government. And now you're leading a mighty grassroots organizing network. What, from your perspective, is on your mind, and what's keeping you up at night?
Oh man, Mo, it is, I'm thinking a bunch of numbers, to be honest, as I was listening to my sister, Christina, and the councilman. I just feel like, first and foremost, I'm thinking of the 90 million people who, for one reason or another, swung in, not out, in this past presidential election, and how we must work to engage folks so that they feel the connection between government and the things that are keeping them up at night, and take action. And the way in which we do that, I believe, and I know my comrades here also believe, that it's by giving people a glimmer of power and possibility through their political action, just like we do at WFP day in and day out, and how we push everyone. It's our belief of not any blue will do. We need to have progressive leadership that responds to the needs of people, so that 90 million swing back in. That's the first thing I'm thinking about. The other thing I'm thinking about is $1 trillion. I'm thinking about the massive transfer of wealth that is about to happen if Donald Trump gets his full way on this budget. And that is to make almost $1 trillion in cuts in order to move $1 trillion in additional tax benefits or free rides or additional, like all of the perks with none of the responsibilities to his cronies. It is a reason why we will see them lined up tonight. It is the reason we saw them lined up in his inauguration, because it's pay to play in the Donald Trump administration. And what they're trying to move is $1 trillion worth of grift and stealing and transfer of wealth. And then the last number I'm thinking about, to be quite honest, is 14. And, Christina has heard me say this before. In fact, she said it too. We know that what is slowly happening is a deconstruction of reconstruction. We know that the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, in which we granted not only equity and opportunity in the political process, but we expanded those words of freedom to cover more people. We know that they're trying to grab them back. And so we must be very vigilant and ensure that we continue to protect and denounce any attacks on the 14th, because that's an attack on our full citizenship, on the way in which we are seen as whole humans under our law. So I'm paying attention to those numbers, and I know that bottom line, tonight, tomorrow night, and all the way through into 2026, we must mobilize for action. So thank you for holding space, and I hope we share opportunities that folks will have to engage with either the Working Families Party or organizations and leaders like those that you are making space for today, Mo.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thanks for that historical context. It's really critical to understand what our people fought for and how in this moment, so many of those protections, so many of those rights are in question. So I want to bring it to you, Nicholas. So I want you to make it plain for us. You're on the ground in Philly. You're talking to folks all across Philly every single day. What are you hearing directly from your constituents in this moment?
Well, I can say what I'm hearing directly. Certainly, I was just at a meeting the other night of a number of folks from the Asian community, Pacific Islander community as well, who are all quietly having a very large town hall to discuss what could actually be done to protect their community and to protect their family members and what have you. There is a desire, at least in our context, that elected officials become more outspoken and courageous in their defense of their constituency. Unfortunately, we have not had the sort of bold communication as it relates to protecting our communities that we would like to see here in the city of Philadelphia. And there is a desire to see more of that, but not only within the migrant community, but also, as I said, with our queer community, with our workers. And this is not necessarily new. There has been a desire, an outcry for more courageous leadership, a willingness to take the position that might not be popular amongst your colleagues, but might be necessary for working families, and live into that and to lean into that. And I believe now it's only been amplified. It's only been turned up. Folks are recognizing, as Christine lifted up earlier, things are changing. And so they're looking for they're looking for something else. How many times have we all probably heard since Election Day how folks are frustrated with the Democratic Party? Not to shade them at all. I'm just naming what I'm hearing on the ground. Frustrated with the Democratic Party, frustrated with the Republican Party, and they're looking for something else. They're looking for something real, something authentic. And so they're concerned about those sorts of things. They're concerned about housing, right? They're concerned about the cost of living. That preceded the election of Donald Trump. That's a reality at the ground level. And so these very brass tacks material things that can help measurably improve folks' lives is something that has only been turned up and amplified. And so we're looking at how we can actually meet folks where they are to address those sorts of things and not be only reacting to, as I'm sure the right wing would have us to be, reacting to everything that happens, but proactively moving towards those things that we know aren't just an interest to who our constituency is, but reality is many of the folks that got won over by MAGA care about these same things. And so I see an opportunity here, and I hear people speaking to it, and so we're going to seize that moment.
Christina, same question, and I know our brother Jumani Williams, the public advocate of New York, just came by, so we're going to bring him in. But Christina, as we bring him in, Christina, same question. What are you hearing from your members?
First of all, I had my mic on mute, but I was doing all the amens and that's rights over here. I know, Councilman, that you're a man of the church. Our folks are feeling, a mix of like targeted real fear. People are afraid to come out of their homes. People are afraid at what attacks might come to them. People are paralyzed in ways that are keeping their kids from going to school. They're paralyzed from ways that are keeping them from going to work and being able to earn a living. There's a lot of real fear in the community. That's real. There's a lot of deep frustration that folks are experiencing. And that ranges from finger pointing. How could we possibly have gotten ourselves back into this situation? Are you one of those people who voted this way or that way? There's, a lot of economic desperation, as Councilman O'Rourke was alluding to, people who are, at the end of the day saying, whatever's happening at the federal level, like, that's terrible. And also, I might be homeless next month, or I don't know that there's any way that I can, pay for my medical bills, or my house just burned in a fire and it got turned into some political zoo, as opposed to figuring out how folks in a historically Black community like Altadena can rebuild and reestablish the wealth that they fought so hard to create. All of that's real. And I was in a meeting the day before I was with you, Maurice, with community members who really have the will, the desire to really start to fight, right? Folks who were like, it always sucked for us. And I recognize that if I don't push for something real, push for something else, push for something different, then there is an agenda that is going to be established in this moment. They're very clear-eyed about that protection is really critical and important. We can't leave our folks behind. We can't build a new world that's only for the people who are fortunate enough to have made it out of the slaughter that's coming for us. That doesn't work for them. So we've got to protect our people, but protection is not enough. And so our folks are saying, in every room that they're in, yes, let's do this really important work of keeping our people safe. And let's not pretend that doing a lighter version of what the Republican Party is saying is going to win people to a Democratic Party that never worked for our people anyway. Let's not pretend that there isn't already a party established to do that. Let's create something different. Let's create something that actually is by and for us, and put me in every space and place possible where I can make that happen. That's the range of emotions that our folks are feeling right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I hear every single emotion you could imagine. From F around and find out, to I'm fired up, to the despair, and to tap me in, I'm ready to move, and everything in between. Ana Lilia, what are you hearing?
So I'm working day in and day out, not only with community organizations like Christina's. Proud to again be in community with all of those here. But also working with organizers who, to be honest, are trying to, at the same time, come up with a strategy as to how we're going to protect our communities and inform our communities. Coming up with strategies to ensure mutual aid while we're trying to stay ahead of any weaponization of government or the criminalization of political dissent. And so I'm just working really hard to try to keep our movement with the energy, with the resilience, and frankly, with like the space to be able to say, like, this is hard, but history, although history doesn't repeat, it does inform. And history tells us that by turning into community, by engaging each other deeply, by like reaching out not only within our own families, to our neighbors, at our churches, and the places and spaces in which we naturally find ourselves, whether it's the grocery store, looking at that crazy price of eggs, or at pickup with our kids when we're wondering what happens if the Department of Education is unfunded. And what we need to, as organizers, what I'm trying to do is hold people who could carry through that. And then at the same time, impart to everyone else that this is the moment to talk to each other, that this is the moment to like look at the pain that we're experiencing, who is causing it, and realize it's not us. No, really, it's them. And our first opportunity to derail it is, for everyone listening, is this budget reconciliation and this budget process. Do not lose, take the eye off the prize on this one. We should be listening to what's happening tonight. The truth is, we need to know our ideological opponents so that we could undermine whatever it is that they're trying to do. They've given us their roadmap. We should believe them. And then we should be looking carefully at budget reconciliation, because that $1 trillion that I spoke about, it's going to be, that $1 trillion in tax cuts is going to be given to the Jeff Bezos of the world by cutting agriculture and food programs and school lunches and school breakfasts. It's going to be achieved by cutting education and workforce so that we don't have training programs and we don't have bridge programs to get young people into jobs and careers. It's going to be by cutting education and commerce. It's going to be by cutting the national resources. It's going to be achieved by cutting oversight and government accountability. It's going to be achieved by cutting transportation and infrastructure. So this is the time, whenever you drive over a pothole, I hope when you get
Absolutely, Anna Lily, and we're
it
gonna
cut
bring
off.
in. Yep, we got cut off, but we're gonna bring in Jumani Williams, and I want everybody to understand a theme here. Every single person here is on the front lines. This is a message from the front lines of our democracy, and every single person here is an organizer, and started off as organizers, and still in their different capacities continues to organize. And so I'm happy to bring to the conversation organizer, former city council person, always an activist, New York City's public advocate, my brother Jumani Williams.
Peace and blessing. Love and light, everybody. And just so folks know, public advocate is a citywide elected official position. So we try to let folks know what it is for folks who are not from New York City.
Appreciate you. And Jumani, the question that I was asking others is, what are you hearing? What are you hearing from your constituents about this moment?
Now, and I appreciate you and everybody who's on here on the front lines. You know, I've heard some people say it. I think there's a mixture of emotions. People are very, very afraid. People are very concerned. They're concerned about the city we're in. And here in New York City, we have a whole nother problem that we can talk about at some other point, because we have a mayor that's not providing, I think, the messages of safety that we would want to see. So they're worried about that. They're worried about some of the things they've always been worried about, safety and affordability, some things that the party I belong to did not address. And so we got to this, not because the richer people who want to cause division were correct. I think it was because we just ignored people who were telling us for a very, very long time what they were angry about, what they were worried about, and we just straight up ignored it, if we're going to be honest. I also know that, you know, folks who are on the ground like us and people who are doing this work are starting to come out. You know, to be honest, there was a period of mourning, which makes sense. Folks were trying to figure it out, trying to take some time to breathe. And, you know, this man is a man of chaos, flood the zone. So there's a lot happening. But I think folks who are all the organizers who are going to try to take lead in the situation are very slowly starting to come together with a plan that's going to make sense, and I think energize folks. But it's not, you know, it's not surprising. It took some time. This was some heavy blows, man. We thought we was past this, and we're not. So, you know, I don't knock anybody, but it takes some time to just take a second to breathe, man. Real.
That's right. That's right. And when you said party that you belong to, I'm pretty sure you're not talking about the Working Families Party.
Oh, hell no. Sorry, the Democratic Party, Working Family Party is, you know, people are listening to the Working Families Party and listening to people on this call. They would have leaned in to a public safety message that was not how many people can you punish, particularly if they're Black and brown. If they had leaned into affordability and housing, they would have adopted a message that would have addressed the things that people were scared of and have been talking about. Man, you had Obama and Trump voters. Those are people who've been telling you, we don't want the same old. And we kept giving them the same old candidates and messages. And now we surprised. Like, many of us have been talking about this for a very, very long time. And quite frankly, they try and do the same thing again in some spaces. That's another conversation. Hopefully they won't. No, we have been talking about safety. All of us want to be safe. And we know that our law enforcement partners have a role to play, but we also know they can't do it alone. And everybody knows that. We have been talking about affordability, talking about housing. We allow wealthy people to put a plan to make them wealthier, to convince people that they're the better people to address this issue. And they did that by the tried and true way of telling them the people you don't like anyway are the reason for this problem. even though we get richer doing it. And so, you know, I hope we really adopt some lessons that I think we should have learned first time around. We didn't, but I'm hoping we do now. And I see people starting to coalesce and come together. It is sad to see organizations and entities, you know, bowing to the ring at this moment. But we've been here before. Our ancestors have been here before. I think our job is to try to make the next generation as proud of us in this fight, in this moment, than we are, as we are the last generation.
Indeed, and we will be on.
And I'm just going to step back and just let everything happen.
Now, Roland, you know me. So when they come at me that they're tired, I'll tell them, we don't have time to be tired. Fannie Lou Hamer wasn't tired. Rosa Parks wasn't tired. And so I looked them directly in the eye and I said, look, I'm crisscrossing this country to make sure that what happened to us in November doesn't happen to us in 2026. And sisters have been out there in the fight. And the sisters that I know, we're getting more sisters, young sisters, win with Black women. Yeah. We're getting stronger by the minute. But I wanted to also echo what Ken said and to tell you, we just talked about this, a people's tour. I'm going to be a part of that, hopefully in my new role. Our Congressional Black Caucus PAC has talked about it. So we have to bring our family together. There is no time for complacency. Right. There is no time for us to be tired, to give up. And Black women have been the major base of this party. And so I'm going to say this.
Biggest voting group, Black women, second biggest Black men.
That's exactly. Right. And so when we see, that's why in part I'm here. You said to us, we need to show the folks and our constituents that we're fighting. We're going to go into those Republican districts that we can win and take back, and we're going to do our own town halls there. We're going to meet with those constituents there because right now, Donald Trump's screwing everybody. He screwed Republicans. We have Republicans calling our office saying, I didn't know it was going to affect me.
Like hashtag, we tried to tell you.
Hashtag, you get what you vote for.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Let me quickly do this here. I do want to bring in our legal folks. Janae Nelson, she's President, Director, Counsel of the Legal Defense Fund. Barbara Arnwine, President, Founder, Transformative Justice Coalition. Damon Hewitt, President, Executive Director, Lawrence Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. And of course, also Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I'm just saying.
Now, come on.
I mean, the rest of y'all groups, see me, y'all lie. But I'm just saying, y'all lie. Janae, I want to start with you, Janae. The battle is happening in the courts. Y'all have been, dealing with some major fights. A lot of people don't see what's happening in the courts. But listen, it's real what's going down in the courtrooms across this country.
Oh, it's very real. And that's really where the first front of this battle is being fought. Right. And it's not the last, it's not the only one. We absolutely need people power. We need mobilization. But the courts must hold the line in the same way that they did in the first Trump administration, where the Trump administration lost more than a third of, or 2/3, I should say, of all of the challenges against the actions and the overreach that it took. And right now, the Trump administration is facing 95 lawsuits in 43 days of being in office. That should tell you something about the lawlessness of this administration and how much there is an abuse of executive power. And if we really have a system of government where there is a separation of powers, you have Congress, you have the executive, you have the judiciary, ultimately the Supreme Court at the top. If that means anything anymore, we will see the Supreme Court ultimately step in and lay down the law quite literally against this lawless administration. If not, it is not worth the fabric on the seats of that court. It really isn't. And this is a crisis moment in our democracy. And I am expecting, and in fact, we should all expect, that the courts will hold the line. They must, for their own integrity and for their own future existence. Otherwise, we will descend into complete anarchy, and that is no future for this multiracial society.
Absolutely. Just an update. We had 151,000. So I want to thank all of y'all who are watching. I'm gonna go to you, Damon. And again, it's every legal group who is filing lawsuits on behalf of fellow employees, trying to protect civil rights, environmental rights. I mean, there's an all-out assault on the civil rights infrastructure.
That's exactly right. There's an all-out assault, and we're fighting back, and we're fighting forward. And as Janae said, we're drawing a line in the sand, and the courts have to stand on that line. You know, two things are happening right now. Trump is trying to weaken federal civil rights infrastructure, but he's also trying to weaponize it.
Right.
And his Jedi mind trick is to actually say that all the things that companies do, that schools do, that workplaces do, to comply with federal civil rights law is now somehow illegal. His blanket articulation of illegal DE&I, there's nothing illegal about almost anything that happens in DE&I. In fact, what's illegal is what Trump is doing. Exactly. He's violating the Constitution because his executive orders are vague and overbroad. He's violating the Constitution because he's violating due process, taking away grants that nonprofit organizations earned and that federal contractors earned. He's trying to take that away with the stroke of his pen and the diarrhea of his mouth. We're not going to let him do that. That's why you see so many different lawsuits, different types of organizations, different types of individuals in different federal courts targeting different federal agencies' action. We actually have them covered like a blanket, and it's not going to stop.
Barbara, they're trying to go after every civil rights office in all of these different departments.
Yes.
They've already announced they are withdrawing the DOJ lawsuits against fire departments and police departments for discrimination. They are not going to protect non-white people.
Not at all. And indeed, what people need to understand, this man is delusional, right? He actually thinks he's king. He actually thinks he's a dictator. He actually believes that he's a fascist leader. It's important for people to understand that today when he tweeted out that he's going to, quote, punish illegal protesters, and talking about he's going to expel people from school.
Banning masks, all that.
I mean, what power does he, what university does he run?
The Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers?
Exactly.
I'm just curious.
I mean, seriously, I mean, this is delusional. I wish people understand this, that this is dangerous. And it's so important that the legal sector stands up. You know, I'm not happy with that ABA, with that ABA statement on DEI. That has to be addressed. I am happy with their statement on the constitutional crisis we're in. I think that was a good one. I think that what we have to do is understand right in this moment is the courts, the Supreme Court. It's also the legislature. Yeah. You know, it really bothers me that you got this concession and rollover going on in the GOP senators and legislators. But I also want to tell people in the street that it's you too. We're on our way to Selma. Yeah. We'll be in Selma this weekend. That's right. Where 600 people changed this nation.
Right.
And we want to remind folks that it's your personal power. When you see something wrong, like John Lewis say, do something. We need you to be filing these lawsuits, be bringing up. I actually think when you add up all the individual lawsuits that individual people have brought, it's over 4,000.
Janae, I got really sick and tired of hearing people complaining about the black federal judges Biden Harris appointed, people saying that wasn't a big deal. I think people probably now understand why even one federal judge makes a huge difference. That's right. And why we were so focused to go as hard as possible to get those 200 plus judges and the most black female federal judges in American history.
That's right. President Biden nominated and the Senate confirmed a historic number of black women, of people of all backgrounds, LGBTQIA, people from Middle Eastern backgrounds, Latinos, Latinas, everybody got a fair shake. And now we have a federal judiciary that is filled with people who are highly qualified, who represent the American people and what we look like in all our glorious diversity, and people who have professional background diversity, folks who were public defenders, folks who represented indigent clients, folks who come from just a variety of backgrounds and therefore can bring the best legal thinking to the complex issues that we're facing in this moment of threat and challenge in our democracy. So that will be President Biden's most lasting legacy. And there's reason to be hopeful, which is why I do have hope in the courts. When we were facing the court system in the first Trump administration, And when we were left at the end of that administration, he had completely left the courts imbalanced with extremist, many deeply unqualified judges on the court. So it was incumbent upon President Biden to do what was necessary to try to rebalance the court. So we now have far more intelligent, credible judges to do the important work of upholding our Constitution. And I got to tell you, the founder of the Legal Defense Fund, Thurgood Marshall, who was the first Black Supreme Court justice, when he was being sworn in 1967, he said, "The truth is more than a mental exercise. The truth takes action from all of us." And that's what we're doing tonight. We can't just sit there and let the truth be manipulated, and in less than a half an hour, we will see how that can be done. Truth takes action. And so it's going to take the action of the courts, it's going to take the action of the legislature, it's going to take the action of the people. And that is what the charge is right now on the table.
I'm going to quickly go to Damon and Barbara. And I've been posing this question because we have waiting in the wings, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Congressman Kwesi Mfume. What do you want people to do? People want marching orders. People say, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. What do you tell them?
Number one, speak out, speak up, be vocal, leveraging your own voice, a collective voice, but also what we call your reputational capital. If you are a minister, if you are a teacher, if you are, a sanitation worker, we need people from all walks of life speaking out and speaking up and doing it together. The second thing is we need some people to be brave in the face of this fire, knowing that there's something that people are putting on the line. That means being a plaintiff in one of the lawsuits that we filed or trying to file. That also could mean speaking truth to power when you're directed to do something that you know is patently illegal. There's a lot on the line for folks, but we're all going to be there to defend people as well. The last thing is we have to demand more of our elected officials, regardless of party affiliation. We have to put the fire under them, because if we don't, some folks are going to walk away scot-free as if it has nothing to do with them.
Folks, this is a live look of the U.S. House floor right here again. And so who are we looking at? Clueless Nancy Mace and really clueless J.D. Vance. Barbara, go ahead. What do you want? What do you people want to know what I do? What do you tell them?
Right now, the number one thing we want people to do is use their economic power to force these corporations to do right. These corporations have power. They should be speaking out to protect our democracy right now. The fact that they're not speaking out to uphold the DEI policies, the fact that they are letting these folks raid Medicaid and other systems so they can have a tax break. Are you kidding me? It is absolutely important for people to really use their dollars. Every one of us spend at least a dime a day. Let's decide how we use those dollars. So TJC, if you go to tjcoalition.org, you're going to see our No DEI, No Buy program. And we're serious about that. We're also saying to everybody, as Damon said so eloquently, get in these lawsuits. Be a plaintiff. You got to put your life, you got to put your soul on the line. Do this, people. Do this.
Janae, what do you want them to do?
I echo everything that my fellow legal fighters have said. And I would say, listen, we have to hold our elected officials accountable. You all need to have in your phones this phone number to the Senate, which is 202-224-3121. That's 202-224-3121. And call your senator. Call your senator and say that you will not vote for them if they pass certain legislation that is antithetical to democracy. If they are not enforcing civil rights laws and supporting an administration that will do that, if they are taking actions that are lawless, if they are kowtowing to a bully wannabe dictator, that is unacceptable. And if you want to represent the American people, you need to represent everyone. That means people who look like you and me and the beautiful mosaic that we all are. So we've got to all get engaged. We got to get involved. Some of us have never walked in a protest. Some of us have never had to use the restraint from buying something that we want. Now is our time. If you ever imagined who you would be in the face of those water hoses, in the face of those growling dogs, in the face of Jim Crow, in the face of enslavement, This is your moment to stand up and show who you are. And we need everybody to do that because the future generations are on the line.
Indeed. Janae Nelson with LDF, I appreciate it. Of course, my frat brother Damon Hewitt, I appreciate it. Barbara Arnwine, I appreciate it as well. Folks, we're joined right now by Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Congressman Kwasi Mfume. We're going to go first to that introvert from Los Angeles, Congresswoman Maxine Waters. Congresswoman, we've seen you out there trying to get into these federal buildings, and what I keep hearing from people is they want to see a fight from Democrats. They want to see them challenging Republicans every single day, every single hour, every minute, every second. What have you been saying to your party? What needs to happen in this moment?
What I'm saying to my party and everybody else is we got to get in the streets. We can't just sit at home and go to the different platforms and think somehow everybody's listening to us. We've got to show that we're willing to fight. You're absolutely right. Not only did I go to the Treasury Department for our first protest action, and then I followed that up with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, where I protested and I spoke, and then early in the morning, as cold as it was, over to the Education Department to try to get in and face down with a security officer. And I want you to know, on Saturday in my district, in front of Elon Musk's office, we protested with about 3,000 to 4,000 people. And yesterday I was at HUD trying to get up to see this new secretary of HUD. I'm not stopping. It takes action. When people ask, what can I do? When the call comes out, get up and go. Join us in the protest. Let our voices be heard. As a matter of fact, I'll ask the lawyers here, don't you think that the more we protest, the louder we are, the more we identify what we care about, will that have some possible influence on the courts and the final decisions that they have to make? These are temporary decisions, but if we're not in the street, if we're not talking about how terrible this is, I don't know if we will be taken seriously. So I'm in this fight, and I'm not moving. I'm not. And I'm going to be on the street every opportunity that I get. And so that's my answer to what should we do? Get on the street.
Congressman Kwasi Mfume, you made it clear you were not going to be sitting in the House chamber listening to a litany of lies. Why was that important for you to make that statement?
Well, it's important because otherwise we get taken for granted in many respects. And Maxine and I are in lockstep totally on this, that in order to change opinions, we've got to be in the street. We can't fight this any other way. This is not for the faint at heart. This is not for those who think this is a weekend event. This is going to take some time. It's going to take just what the people took in the 50s and 60s to get us to where we are. And here we are now, 60 years after the passage of the Voting Rights Act, and less than 11% of all elected officials in this country are Black. And I don't mean this in a wrong way, but 100% of that 11% is not doing enough right now. So there's got to be pressure on elected officials. People have to take it among themselves also in their communities to put together clusters. We ought to have something going on in every city where the educators and the faith community and the businesses that are running in those communities and the elected officials and everybody else is putting together strategies. We can't win this without a strategy. Donald Trump knows exactly what he's doing, and Elon Musk has been given the freedom to do whatever he wants to do.
On that particular point there, Ken, this requires organization and mobilization. It can't just be haphazard. And so what are you saying to your infrastructure, national office, your state chairs, your county chairs, what they must be doing?
Well, right now, exactly that, making sure we're serving as a convening force, bringing together all of our partners in justice, bringing them to the same table to strategize, to make sure that we have one strategic lens in which we're doing this work together. You know, look, the reality for the Democratic Party is this: we are a big tent. We've got a lot of different voices in this tent. And my goal as a Democratic chair is to make sure that all of those voices feel included, but most importantly, that we're in the same boat, rowing in the same direction towards the same goal. And that's difficult because right now we have 20, 30 different boats all rowing in different directions. My job, Congresswoman Beatty's job and others is to make sure that we are all together in this fight right now. We have to be unified. Now, no one in our party should confuse unity with unanimity. We can disagree, but at this moment right now, we need to stay unified in this fight in front of us. And that means we're all rowing together towards the same goal.
Congresswoman?
Well, let me just say, I agree with what Ken just said, but I think my colleagues, Congresswoman Waters and Ifume, just said it best. And we're good examples of showing people that we're not afraid. People have to understand that there are people who will stand with them. And when you look at what this administration has done across the board, you had people in here talking about being entrepreneurs, talking about healthcare. He is destroying the very fabric of what we've worked for. 62 members in the Congressional Black Caucus, the largest that we've ever had in the history. I know that when we look back to Lou Stokes and Shirley Chisholm, they're expecting us to stand on their shoulders and fight. And that's what we're doing, not only today, we're going to be on the Capitol steps tomorrow. We're going to go back home to our districts, and we're not afraid to go into Republican districts. But right now, Republicans are afraid. So we're having victories. We're winning in the courts. We're winning in all of those litigations that we're doing. They're putting stays, they're putting freezes on the dollars that he tried to freeze. Now we're able to get some of those dollars back. And I think what you're doing, but we have to be in this together. Hold us accountable. My record speaks for itself. Maxine Waters' record speaks for itself. I was out there with her and other people, but we also need media to tell our stories as well. We have to let the people know that we're in this together. Just like you're doing with the lawyers, you have to call us out for the good we're doing. Because if we don't give hope to the least of us and to the Black Americans and to all of Americans, and that's another part of unity tonight, that I'm calling on all of media, and especially Black media, to give hope and to say, we're in this fight. We're following some of the things you've asked us to do. We have been unapologetic about not being in the room with him. That's the people's house, and he has no right or privilege to be there. And for Elon Musk, a billionaire, to be the spokesperson, unelected, unvetted, and unqualified. So we're calling them out, and I will continue to stand with the Democratic Party. I will continue to stand with my good friends who are here today because they're making a difference.
Congressman Mfume.
Roland, let me make.
Yeah, I was going to you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Running tight on time.
Go ahead.
I'm going to repeat what I said before. This is not for the faint of heart. We've got to find a way to recognize that this is a real deal, and they're going to come after all of us. Maxine will tell you how many death threats she's gotten in just the last 10 days. I've got police outside of my house now. Jasmine Crockett had to have 2 federal officers accompany her on a trip. It's that kind of situation. So we need people to recognize that we've got to step out. And I think more than anything else, we need a real crisp plan, a Magna Carta of where we get to the next level. Just like the contract on America was 10 points that everybody understood, everybody agreed in, and everybody worked around. We need something simple like that for our people, for our struggle, and we need all aspects of our community to be a part of forming it.
Well, and Congresswoman Waters, you know this, you and I talk about this all the time. We talk about the importance of Black-owned media because we're living in a world now where mainstream media, these led by these billionaires, they're capitulating, they're giving in.
Yes.
And it was fun. It had a lot of people who were angry and upset when we got $350,000 from the Kamala Harris campaign. And I'm like, y'all know $600 million was spent on ads. And so you whined about $350,000. And I'm like, you can't do what we're doing here for free. And so we've got to have investments in Black-owned media. We got to be able to, as Dr. King said in his book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community, we must focus on the substantive and the militant when it comes to advancing our issues, because when you see mainstream media folding, this is where independent alternative media can step in.
Well, you are the best example of why it is absolutely necessary for us to have our own media.
Right.
You have done what was necessary to get the resources together so that you could have us on a program like this tonight. You think NBC or ABC or CBS would have all of us on for this long talking about our issues. Kwaisi and I, we talk about this stuff all the time. And Kwaisi and I have made some decisions. We're not going tonight to be insulted by the low down, dirty, no good, nasty president of the United States of America. We're not going to sit there and hear him say whatever he has to say. And I just hope that he keeps revealing his own self about how dirty and cruel he is. But would we get this opportunity anyplace else? We've got to own our media. We've got to understand that they need the resources to do what is necessary to get the truth out, to get the real word out. We've got so much to talk about, so many stories to tell, such a big need to educate people about how this government works, how this system works. So I thank you for having the persistence, for having the necessary strength to do what you're doing, to keep us talking. And Kwaisi, I want to thank you so very much. And all of you, Joyce, everybody in the room tonight are people who can not only speak up for what they believe in, but they do it every day. Not everybody does that, but thank you for giving us the opportunity to have this opportunity tonight to be able to speak truth to power.
Well, I appreciate it. I wanted us to hit 100,000, and we're now sitting at 169,000.
Right, we're gonna get to do it.
On our way. So, Congresswoman Waters, I appreciate it. Congressman Fumi, I appreciate it. Ken, final point, I want to go to you. You had some influencers. They were at the DNC on Capitol Hill earlier. Talk about what y'all are doing to really focus on alternative media. The right funded that for a long time, and progressives ignored it. They've ignored Black-owned media as well, and they saw what happened in the last election. Talk about that role that's going to play as you as the chair.
Well, I mean, you hit on this, right? We keep ignoring independent media outlets like yours at our own expense. We keep ignoring these new class of information influencers, people who are out there actually getting our message out to the masses. Look, I'm a hunter. People ask me, where do I hunt, right? They think I'm going to say my favorite deer stand or my favorite hunting spot, right? No, when I go to hunt deer, I go to where the deer are. We know right now, people are getting information from lots of different spaces, right? From all across the social media, from podcast to gaming services to vertical video, all these new places, yet these DC consultants continue to put money in behind tactics that don't work, that are old and antiquated, that are not reaching people. We need to meet people where they're at. That means we need to invest as a party in Black-owned media. We need to invest in the party in these young influencers who are reaching young voters like never before, and everything in between. So we need to do a better job because, to your point, and we've talked about this before, Roland, the Republican Party kicked our butts in this last election cycle because they were meeting voters where they were getting the information. We have to do a much better job on that. And you have my commitment. We're going to do a much better job with this DNC than previous DNC.
All right. We surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Ken Martin. Thanks a lot, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty. Thanks a lot. Again, Barbara Arnwine, Damon Hewitt. Thanks a lot as well. All right, folks, we're going to do this here. We're going to go to a quick break. Folks, y'all don't go anywhere. Trust me. We're bringing in our pastors lineup. We're bringing in Dr. Greg Carr. We're bringing in Nola Haynes. We're bringing in our other panelists. We're also getting ready for Reverend Dr. William Barber, Congresswoman Maxine Waters. Thanks a lot as well. And so, folks, do me a favor. Support the work that we do. We don't have millionaires and billionaires cutting us checks. I tell you, I went to the P.O. box the other day. There were 386 people who mailed in checks and money orders. Now, it took me 6 hours. It took me 6 hours having to open an envelope, pull them out, sign it, catalog it, and post it. But the money still count. But the reason that's important, because I need people to understand, is regular, ordinary people. I told y'all, I was talking to Pastor Bill Lamar. He said he had 5 different cousins sending him the message about tonight's show. I had people saying, man, they grandmamas and mamas and grandfathers were saying, y'all gonna watch launch this show September 4th, 2018 for the very reason, because we understood.
All right, real quick. First of all, thank you all for being here. Shout out to I actually have to get a shout out to my mama. Y'all see my mom would be calling all during the lives and whatnot. She was the one. My mom gave me the heads up that all this was happening today. You see, I got a little tan. I got a little tan. I got a little shine going on. And my line fighting for his life too. My line fighting for his life is still there. It's still there. My line out here fighting like the YNs on the streets of Mardi Gras. So shout out to my mother for giving me the heads up that this was going on. And credit to Regina and Miss Ray for helping figure out what in the world I was going to do tonight. So I am definitely not going to be running any of the speech. I just want to say during this break that it's really dope. There's so much content out here right now. You have the State of the People going on, which is a 24-hour marathon. Roland's been going for a really long time. I think he's going till like 1 a.m., something like that. I think it's an amazing idea to counter program this, to counter program the speech. And I definitely felt like supporting what these two groups have put together was the best use of my live and giving you guys a platform to discuss it here as well. So unfortunately, the two things I'm most looking forward to are happening at the same time, because I definitely want to watch Dr. Barber, which is going to be on Roland's live. But I also wanted to see the panel, the roundtable, which is on the State of the People with Angela Rye and Roy Wood. So we'll see. We'll see how it works out. But so I might have to flip around a little bit in this hour. Naturally, everybody brought their heavy hitters in the 9 o'clock hour as well. They should. But be on the lookout for a response video tomorrow. Thank you, Valerie. I appreciate that. Be on the lookout for a response video tomorrow. That one will have pieces of the speech in it. But I'm not going to watch it because I already, I know it's one thing about Trump, he's extremely predictable. So I mean, look, I reserve the right. If he ends up coming and calling Elon Musk all out his name or something like that, then I'll have to. Well, then it will definitely be pieces of the speech in that case. But anyway, be on the lookout for that tomorrow on the earlier end. I have lots of other content coming too. We definitely going to get into some of these town halls, of course, and some of the MAGA on MAGA drama that's been going on. Jamal Bryant, it's a lot of stuff that I have on my radar. But in the meantime, oh snap! Let's switch gears. In the meantime, I'll be here responding to everything that's going on. I got a little surprise for y'all. How about this? All right.
And we are not done yet. We are here on the State of the People to speak the truth. Tonight, Donald Trump is going to lie to the American people. He's going to claim victory and promise new threats. But we know the truth. Donald Trump is and always has been a liar. And even in the face of such hatred and bigotry, justice will prevail. Have faith in the rule of law. Have faith in our nation's legal system. Have faith in the truth. And as my colleagues and I continue to defend democracy in the courts, I welcome you to join us in standing up for what is right. Take your anxieties and outrage and turn them into action, because faith and fear cannot share the same space. Together, we can protect the values, justice, equity, diversity, and protect the great experiment of democracy. And we will defend the promise of America for all individuals who believe in freedom. Do not believe the hype. Letitia James. Thank you.
All right, now, as promised, we are going to turn to a powerful town hall meeting, and I promise you what you are about to hear will be starkly different than what you have been hearing from the Trump White House over these last few weeks. We are going to be joined by Angela Rye, co-host of the Native Land podcast, and we should say co-creator, along with Joy Reid, of this trailblazing marathon that we've all been putting on. And there are many, many, many people that you will not see who've been up and working mighty long hours to keep this thing going. Also with Angela is Roy Wood Jr. We all know him as one of the most profound comedians and hosts of our time. I'll turn it over to them and I'll join them in a few minutes. And working mighty long hours to keep this thing going. So if Angela is Roy Wood Jr., we all know him as one of the most profound comedians and hosts of our time. I'll turn it over to them and I'll join them in a few minutes.
Okay, let's go, Angela.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for watching this live stream. We are 21 hours in, and as we embark upon this 21st hour, my co-host and I, Roy Wood Jr., have a very, very special guest. He happens to have made Black history and history for all of America as the first Black governor of Maryland. His name is Wes Moore, and he joins us right now.
Good evening, good sisters. Good to be with you, Angela, and thank you. We love you, and we are so thankful for you and your leadership and everything you continue to do. And to everybody else, I just want to say not just good evening, but thank you to believe and to continue to spend your time.
So can I tell you something about embarrassing about
your time right now in a place, in a space where this is truly a celebration of us, when we know the assault that so many of us in our communities are feeling, when so much of the pain that our communities are inheriting right now. But I want to say that even at a time when we know the kind of pain that is being intentionally infused upon each and every one of us from a federal government, even at a time when I know that I'm standing here as the governor of the state of Maryland, where we have over 160,000 federal employees in the state of Maryland who right now are being questioned about the value that they bring to our society. People who have been working for Democratic and Republican administrations before, where politics has never entered into the equation, simply a love of people, and are now being told that the work that they are doing to make sure that our grandparents are getting the health care that they need. At a time when you people who are defending our country, both domestically and overseas, at a time when we have people who every single day are ensuring that our communities are safe, that our parks are open, that our homeland is protected, who are now being told that they are adding to inefficiency within our society. At a time when we know, when we're watching proposals like cutting hundreds of billions of dollars of cuts to things like Medicaid, at a time when we're watching basic freedoms and securities that we relied on and we believed in, that are being challenged by people who have done nothing to sacrifice on behalf of this country themselves. I just want to say that I continue to be uplifted about the place and the space that I'm in right now. That I'm speaking to you from Annapolis. I'm speaking to you from a place, from the state of Maryland, that was literally the birthplace of Frederick Douglass. That was literally the birthplace of Harriet Tubman. That was the birthplace of Thurgood Marshall. About the place and the space. And I am standing here and coming here from Maryland, a place that is the northernmost southern state, a place that had the bloodiest battles of the Civil War, a place where the Mason-Dixon line literally runs through my state. And I'm standing here to say that we are all descendants of survivors. We're all descendants of those who came before us and saw the pain and saw the brutality that our society can intentionally inflict upon us. And they got up every morning and they said, still I rise, still I fight, still I conquer, and still I win. We are now just the most recent iteration of this journey. We do come from the blood of Tubman. We do come from the blood of Douglas. We do come from the blood of Shabazz. We do come from the blood of Marshall. And just like them, still I rise. And so even in the times when it can feel darkest, hold on to that light. Hold on to each other. And know that in this time when we stand strong, and yes, when we mobilize, that there is no weapon that is formed against us that shall prosper. We have been told, it is written, and yes, that joy will come inside the morning. And so I'm blessed to be with each and every one of you. Thank you to Angela and to Ed and to Roy and to everybody who made tonight happen. This was the fulfillment that we all needed tonight. This is the entertainment that we all needed tonight. This is the joy that we all need to feel tonight. And I'm here to say, I will rock with you tonight and tomorrow and always. We love you and God bless you and thank you.
Thank you so much, Governor Wes Moore.
Does
We
he
are
have time
so-
for one question or does he have to bounce?
Oh, I always got time for
Just one question. I'm not going to ask you about the samurai sword on the wall in the background. I know we don't have time for that, Governor Moore.
Oh, you can ask about that one.
No, not tonight.
That's getting ready to get used.
Okay.
You flipped the Republican gubernatorial seat to Democratic. As a candidate, what was one thing that you were able to do to help connect with Republican voters? As I feel a little deeper into this administration, as we get deeper into the first 100 days, I feel that some Republican voters are going to be a little more pliable coming up on midterms. Is there any one blanket thing or one piece of advice that you could give people as we start engaging Republican voters to get them to kind of see what's going on? It seemed like from the looks of these town halls, some of them, they starting to see what's happening.
No, they are. And you know, it's interesting, Roy, because I ended up winning with more individual votes than anyone who'd ever run for governor in the history of the state of Maryland. And the reason I bring that up is because just mathematically, you don't get that by just winning Democrats. We won Democrats, we won independents, we won a good chunk of Republicans. And I think the big thing was we had to show up and we had to be able to make our case to them. And I really do believe that one thing that we have seen is that you've seen how Trump, he masters something. It's this idea of telling people to be afraid of it and then telling people who's to blame for it, right? That is the strategy. That's the whole game. And it's rinse and repeat. It's rinse and repeat. It's either saying that the reason that my daughter is not winning a state championship is because they're allowing boys to play. The reason that my child is not getting into college is because of affirmative action. The reason that my son lost their job is because of DEI. The reason, and it's a rinse and repeat model. But here's the thing that I have found out, that if you are willing to go everywhere and you're willing to make your case and you are willing to show up, that you will be able to not just energize a base, you're actually going to be able to enlarge it. You're actually going to be able to bring more people on board. And then you just have to go out there and show that you know how to deliver results. And I think that's the reason that I think we've been able to not just get done what we've been able to get done in the state of Maryland, but I think we've been able to keep the vast majority of people on our side on it. But I think you got to be able to show up and you got to make the case, and do not let someone else define yourself. You go define yourself, but do not give anyone else that power to go define you.
Yes, sir.
I love it. Governor Wes Moore, we are so grateful for your service, for your time, and for your fight in what we know is a very, very difficult time, not just for our people, but all people. And that is why we are 21 hours into this marathon, and we will continue to go. We are not watching the lives on the State of the Union, but we will bring people into the knowledge of the truth here. So we wish you well. We thank you so much for making time for us tonight, and we'll see you soon.
God bless, family. Thanks.
God bless you. So, Roy, I want to do something a little different real quick. We have someone who is a queen and a sister to us. She said recently at Essence Black Women in Hollywood, she said, I recently went through a little breakup. You may have heard about it. So I want to bring Joy Reid up really quick because her name isn't just Joy. She is joy. She is walking joy. She illuminates joy. She oozes joy. And she has been such a tremendous treat for so many of us for so long. Joy, you join us tonight in this time to talk about the state of the people. We've been on this marathon. We started together, we ended together. We started from the bottom, now we're here. And so I just want you to talk about from your own journey, from where you are right now. You're also embarking on a new road in multiple ways. Yes, in this country, but also in media. Where do we go from here, Joy Reid?
Well, first of all, it was so much fun to go on this journey with you, Angela Rye, my good sister. We started at midnight. Then I think I was up to like 3, 4 in the morning, fell asleep with the phone right next to the bed, woke up to the beginning of the town hall. So I don't know what I missed, but I feel like it was in my spirit through my sleep. So this has been incredible. Like, this has actually been one of the most engaging, just soul feeding 24 hours that anyone could have had. I think our community is just, our hearts are beating a little bit faster, knowing that we have this community. And Roy, my brother, listen, I just recently saw you in Utah, so I know you have big things coming up. I'm excited about everything that you're doing. So, and we'll just leave that. Well, I know you have a great project coming up, and I love you. So this has been amazing. I just want to thank everyone who has been a part of this, pulling it together. This has been a dream team, group team effort. It's been incredible. So I'm going to answer that question for you, and I'm going to answer it briefly because I know it's about brevity on tonight. And I just want to say for all of us, because we got like 50 people that want to come in and talk. So I'm going to be very quick, and I'm going to actually quote the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who in 1967 answered the very question that Angela has put to all of us for this incredible town hall. And the question is, where do we go from here? So in 1967, this is what he said, is that I want to say that as I move to my conclusion, as we talk about where do we go from here, that we must honestly face the fact that the movement must address itself to the question of restructuring the whole of American society. There are 40 million poor people here, and one day we must ask the question, why are there 40 million poor people in America? When you ask that question, you begin to question the capitalistic economy. And I'm simply saying that more and more, we've got to begin to ask questions about the whole society. And he says, when I'm questioning the whole society, it means ultimately coming to see that the problem of racism, the problem of economic exploitation, and the problem of war are all tied together. These are the triple evils that are interrelated. In other words, your whole structure must be changed. A nation that will keep people in slavery for 244 years will thingify them and make them things, and therefore they will exploit them and poor people generally economically. What I'm saying today is we must go from this convention and say, America, you must be born again. And so as we all watch Donald Trump and Elon Musk really dismantle our democracy, dismantle our society, I think that we understand that there's going to be rubble in the road. And the question is not, how do we build back what we had before? It's not about building back the previous status quo, which was obviously so dissatisfying and unsatisfying to people that people chose chaos. So I think where we go from here is starting to think about what we build from that rubble. What does this
All right. I'm trying to figure out the issues with the sound. Give me one moment.
See how large
You
of a
guys hear the
gathering
sound
we
on
have,
that?
and it's going to continue to grow over the next
Let me
few
know if you guys
hours.
can hear the sound.
I'm trying to make sure we get the visual where y'all can see the pictures of everybody in here. Right now, it just looks like me and Roy. But hopefully soon, our production can figure out how to get the
You guys
squares
got
of
the
everybody
sound?
up.
You got
While
the
we're
sound back?
doing that, though, I do want to take a
Okay.
moment, Roy, to recognize Congressman Glenn Ivey, who is joining us. Clearly, he is sitting with us and not in the House chamber. So I want to ask him why. Like, you chose clearly to sit out, Congressman. And I'd love for the listeners to know why. This has been a hot topic, Roy. I don't know if you and your chat groups look like mine, but people have been like, why him? So, Congressman, I would love for you, especially because you're an attorney, and so you know this man has broken many a law. Please tell us why you chose to sit out the State of the Union today.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Angela, Roy, and I appreciate what you're doing here. Thank you for pulling this together. And I thank you for
our union. And we would be wise to begin by remembering what binds us together, though imperfectly, but remember what binds us together. Our ancient religious traditions teach us that love, justice, and mercy are the responsibilities not just of individuals, but of governments. In fact, Isaiah chapter 10 says, "Woe unto those who legislate evil and rob the poor and women and children of their right." It is a terrible thing to open the Congress, for instance, with prayer and pray, P-R-A-Y, and then go forth to pass policies that P-R-E-Y, pray on the very people that God cares about the most: the poor, the widows, the children, those who've been pushed to the margins. One of our own prophets reminded us that Amos prophesied in God's name, "Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream." But if you read back up in Amos 5, that same text, those rivers of justice only roll down when a remnant of people come together and cry out in the streets, shut down the malls and everything, and declare, "Not on our watch." God says that when a remnant comes together that says, "Not on our watch, not now," then God says, "I will visit you and help you." And then justice will roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Jesus was clear that nations, not just individuals, but nations, Roland, will be judged by how we treat the hungry, the thirsty, the naked, the stranger, and the least of these. Nations would be judged, not just individuals. And we can never forget that. We can never forget that nations will be judged, not just in some hereafter, but even now, nations will be judged, because how we treat the vulnerable is how we treat God. There is no way to declare in God we trust, but then the vulnerable cannot trust us with power or trust us with the realities of our government. Not only our moral traditions, but what Abraham Lincoln called our ancient faith, but also the commitments of our founding documents. Dr. King would never throw these documents away. He once said to America, "If I was in some other country, I might not protest like I do, but I protest here because you had the nerve to put it in writing and write it down on paper." The Declaration, for instance, of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all persons, all men, are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I see my dear lawyer friend in the house tonight, and she'll tell you that there's something else in that Declaration of Independence. It says that when there has been a long train of abuses, it is the duty, it is the responsibility of the people to rise up and to change that form of government. Our Constitution says we the people, in order to form a more perfect union. Right there, our own Constitution confesses that we are imperfect. And argues, that we have work to do. And part of that work is to establish justice, to provide for the common defense, to ensure domestic tranquility, and to promote the general welfare. Yes, welfare is in the founding principles of our nation and of this Constitution. Now, these words from both Scripture and our founding documents set a high standard for what any nation, particularly this nation, should be about. And when we hold the state of our current union over against this standard, we all must confess that our union in the hand of Trump and Musk, or Musk and Trump, and the current congressional leadership is pretty low down. It does not reach the high standard to which we are called. It falls far below the call of love and justice and mercy. It is far below the government of the people, by the people, and for the people that Abraham Lincoln called us to preserve. It is far beneath what even Franklin Delano Roosevelt proposed. Once Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, in these days of difficulty, we Americans everywhere must and shall choose the path of social justice, the path of faith, the path of hope, the path of love toward our fellow man. Then he said on another occasion, 1937, I see 1/3 of the nation ill-housed, ill-clad, and ill-nourished. And the test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much. It is whether we provide enough for those who have too little. And the global vision of peace that so many from this nation fought for, what we're seeing now is far below that. What we're seeing now is low down. It's far beneath the vision that Dr. King articulated when he stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and told the nation about his dream for full realization of the promise of this nation and that has been made for every one of us. And remember, at the March on Washington, it wasn't just about the dream. It was about living wages, about education and voting rights and labor rights. Or remember when he preached and said, a country's true greatness is not measured by its material achievements like tall buildings, but by how it values and remembers its justice and equality. And it seems, he said, one time in the sermon, he said, it seems as though this morning that I can hear God speaking. And I can hear him speaking throughout the universe saying, be still and know that I am God. In America, if you don't stop, if you don't straighten up, if you don't stop exploiting people, I'm going to rise up and break the backbone of your power. The dark vision being followed by this administration is far beneath those lofty visions I just spoke of. And instead, they are rooted in some immoral ideas. And this dark vision demands that we embrace the call of the hymnists who taught us to sing in the second verse of one of our national hymns, America, America, God mend thine every flaw. God in this moment keeps trying to tell us something. Tell even this administration something. Think about it. The inauguration falling on the day that we remembered the prophetic work and voice of Dr. King was, I believe, a warning, a first warning. America, don't let the nation go down this path without being maladjusted to the unjust and evil actions, the greedy and love of money actions, the power actions that forget the people. And now tonight, I think, is another warning. Again, the first State of the Union is on the night before Ash Wednesday. A day when is a call for repentance. And I hear the Spirit saying again to the nation and to the current leadership, repent, yes, repent. And I hear it saying to us, stand against it, resist what you see happening. Repent of what you see driving this administration's effort. Their immoral philosophy can kind of be summed up in 8 statements. The first thing we see happening that we have to resist is the deliberate attempt to use executive orders as a way to intentionally violate the Constitution, thereby creating enough confusion to distract the people from what's really going on in the Congress that does have the weight of law. See, an executive order, family, doesn't have the weight of law. It can be overturned. But what the Congress passes can't be done that way. And there is some sense, Bannon has said it in a video, he said, we told the president to create 100 days of thunder. Do everything, do anything you want to do, so that while people are distracted, we can be working on undermining the so-called administrative state and putting things in place in the Congress. Secondly, we are seeing their philosophy is the tyranny of technology and the dehumanization of people. The third thing we are seeing is the attempt to make people justify their existence, which has its roots in racism and apartheid and slavery and fascism. You know, when you were in slavery, you had to justify your existence. You had to have a piece of paper. Apartheid, piece of paper. When the Nazis had a piece of paper, now someone with a computer sends a note over and says, prove to me that you're there. That is a dangerous philosophy to be pushing throughout this democracy. And then the fourth immoral philosophy is the denial of equality on every front. And the fifth one is the outright violation of freedom of speech, due process in the law, the attempt to undermine equal protection under the law for all persons. The 14th Amendment is what saved this country. Had not been for the 14th Amendment, you would not see the America, you would not have seen the progress that we have today. And anybody that messes with the 14th Amendment is literally trying to rebirth the country, but not in a good way, but in an unrighteous way. Birthright citizenship is the hallmark. If it wasn't had for birthright citizenship, many of the slaves would have never been able to be citizens because their parents were born in Africa before they were snatched away. The sixth thing that we see is the outright betrayal of liberty. The seventh thing, Roland, we see is the idolatry of certainty, of the certainty of white supremacy. White supremacy operates on the premise that we are certain y'all are different. We are certain that we are better. We are certain that some folk matter and others don't. And the idolatry of certainty is one of the worst sins you can ever commit. To suggest that you are certain that somebody else is not created in the image of God like you. And when you begin to implement that into policy, it is dangerous. And then the eighth thing is the misuse of religious Christian nationalism in an attempt to falsely claim that their immoral actions are moral. To take religion and twist it to make right wrong and wrong right. And that's why tomorrow morning, with fellow clergy and moral leaders from all of this nation's many traditions, we are gathering here in DC tomorrow with in full vestments and standing in the prophetic tradition with heavy hearts, but also with committed spirits, determined to go into the Capitol, into the Rotunda. I don't know what's going to happen, don't know how they're going to respond, but we tend to go to every congressional office to say, you're wrong. Repent, because we hear the call of God and bear the sorrow of the souls in our care who are worried about their country. We're not coming together as Republicans or Democrats, but as faith leaders who know from our work in communities that our common life depends on our shared moral commitments. We are coming to issue a call for repentance and truth-telling, because our political leaders in this current administration have betrayed our most basic moral commitments. And it's not just a momentary betrayal, it's a betrayal every day. Someone asked me the question the other day, what do you do when you have an administration in office that violates what God hates every day? You look at the 6 things that God hates. a proud look, shedding innocent blood, lying, stirring up the community. Every day, what do? We come from many traditions, but we are united by the moral proposition that Abraham Lincoln called our ancient faith and the conviction that all people share an equality. In the face of a tyrannical king who refused to hear the positions of his subjects, this moral conviction that we are created equal and endowed with undeniable rights united our nation in its Declaration of Independence. When the tyranny of chattel slavery, not just slavery, but chattel slavery, threatened to destroy our nation, this moral commitment to equality and freedom sustained a long and painful struggle to not only preserve our union, but also to reconstruct it by guaranteeing equal protection under law. When the tyranny of white supremacy reasserted itself under the guise of separate but equal was constitutional, a moral movement of everyday people tapped the power of nonviolence to compel the nation once again to face the truth about equality and freedom and repent of the ways that it had been betrayed. We have struggled to realize a republic committed to equality and freedom in all. We've never finished the struggle. We're yet struggling, but we've made some headway. But these moral commitments have united us as a people. It's not been a perfect world. The moral commitments that we as Black people and other people have committed to justice has inspired a global community. It's amazing how "We Shall Overcome" has been sung from Alabama to Tiananmen Square. Now, many of these values are recognized as universal human rights as a basis for shared peace. However, the moral failure of our political leaders threatens all of this in a way that has been unseen in recent history. Walk with me now. They have the power, because of the apathy of those who think this is just an anomaly that will easily pass. They have the power because of the absurd abdication of responsibility by those who say nothing can be done. We cannot follow this apathy or this absurd abdication. We have to take action. We have to be advancing. We have to be fully aware. This must be our attitude. Now we must answer the call for full resistance. We are daring to say to America and the current leadership, you cannot hide behind false notions of exceptionalism and perfection. No, you must confess and repent, and if you won't tell it, then we will. That we have become subject in some ways to the tyranny of technology. That tyranny of technology awed by the possibilities of progress and the promise of limited growth. You know, Musk said on a CNN interview that he expected by 2035 all jobs to be replaced by computers and smart engines. Our political leaders in this group have allowed corporate power to go unchecked for decades. This is how we got here. Our courts have ruled that corporations should be treated like people and people should be treated like things. Richest nation in the history of the world, poverty has become epidemic as the fourth leading cause of death. 800 people dying a day from poverty right here in America. Even though we know what could be done and to end this death-dealing poverty, and we have the means to do it, we have allowed extreme inequality to foster and fester like a sore, like a raisin in the sun in our common life. And then this false populism has emerged in response to pit us against one another across dozens of dividing lines. But we must not be divided, because this is a crisis not of just democracy. This, my friends, is a crisis of civilization that is being orchestrated to tear apart democracy forever. Bannon said in one of his interviews recently, and I'll make sure that Roland puts it up if he's not already shown it, We want 100 days of thunder to allow them to do what they want, to take America to the golden age. Bannon said that this is war, all-out war. He said that their plan was to target 4,000 federal jobs, specifically, just like they targeted 2,900 precincts in the election, to target 4,000 federal jobs, because those 4,000 federal jobs control the other 10 million. And that 10 million controls a $5.5 trillion budget, and that budget is connected to $75 trillion in assets. My friends, they're not playing. This is not a time just for cute bumper sticker protest. Our faith traditions and moral traditions provide a firm foundation upon which to stand against the divide and conquer strategies of these extremists. In this moment, like never before, we must believe in a moral agenda that stands against systemic racism, labor exploitation, poverty, xenophobia, and any attempt to promote hate toward any members of the human family. We must be openly and deeply disturbed by the Trump, Musk, Johnson Republican agenda and never separate them. They're all one. One for all and all for one. This is their focus on cutting programs for the poor to give tax cuts to the wealthy and big corporations and more money for the war machine and mass deportation. And we must tell the truth about what's going on, because you cannot organize a movement without an analysis. You have to have an analysis. You have to know what the real truth is, what the battle lines are. It's truth-telling time. And truth-telling in a time of lies is one of the most radical forms of nonviolent action and civil disobedience known to humanity. Only the truth can set us free. We say our people are afraid, but we must do the analysis to understand why they're afraid and what's causing their fear and what will remove their fear. We must tell the truth until everybody knows. For instance, Elon Musk, connected to South Africa, the unelected head of the new Department of Government Efficiency, announced in January that he aims to cut $2 trillion in spending, or 30% of the current federal budget. Tonight, as I walk through, I'm gonna focus specifically on the budget, because one of the things you have to come to understand is that these people do not run for office to give out keys to the cities and certificates. When they run for office, they are running to write statutes and to control the money. That's their purpose. And so he wants 30% of the current federal budget, but without major cuts to the Pentagon and war spending or defaulting on interest payment. We must tell the truth, Barbara, that such drastic slashing would be mathematically impossible without gutting vital programs, such as Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. Every time you hear them say, we want to cut $2 trillion, you must understand that is mathematically impossible without gutting programs like Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare. We must tell the truth that while Republican leaders of the House and Senate haven't come to a consensus yet on the specifics of their tax spending plan, the Republicans in the House are aiming for what they call one big, beautiful bill that would make $2 trillion in cuts over 10 years. Now, you know what happens about 10 years from now is when the demographics shift in this country. And you no longer have a majority white country. First time in Western Hemisphere, when the folk that were brought here as former slaves and the people who were brought here to work from Mexico and other Latin American places, and black folk from Haiti and from Africa, those people brought in will become the majority. In South Africa, they were always the majority. But we've never seen this, where those who were the slaves and those who were the workers become the majority of the country that enslaved them. And that country have the greatest gross domestic product in the world. They say they want this budget 10 years. $2 trillion. And the programs that are likely to be targeted include, let me tell the truth, first of all, in Medicaid. This is what the State of the Union is about. You need to know in Medicaid, the Republicans are considering changes that would shift billions in Medicaid costs to states that take it coverage away from millions of people. The House budget alone, my brothers and sisters, calls for $880 billion in cuts over 10 years. Medicaid is a joint federal program and state and federal program that gives health coverage to low-income people. Now, there are 140 million poor and low-wage people in this country. 60% of black people are poor and low-wage, that's 26 million. 30% of white people are poor and low-wage, that's 66 million. So when they're going to cut Medicaid that provides health coverage to low-income people, that means that cut is going to come straight down the heart of the black community. As of October 2024, more than 72 million people were enrolled in Medicaid. 72 million, excuse me. Another 7 million were enrolled in CHIP, the Children's Health Insurance Program. And somebody told me one day when I was sharing it, when they said, Reverend, that's boring. I said, that's your problem. People with evil intent operate in the boredom. They bet on you not paying attention to the numbers so that you really don't know and understand what's going on. Some of the proposals for cuts to Medicaid could result in the loss of coverage for 36 million people. We must tell the truth. Now, what this means, in 2023, 39.5% of the total Medicaid enrollees were white. 18.5% were black. 29% were Latinx, and 4.7% were Asian. And the rest were native or multiple races. More than 7 million older Americans and 10 million people with disabilities also rely on Medicaid. So when you talk about cutting Medicaid, you're talking about cutting the heart out of coverage for poor and low-income people, and particularly cutting the heart out of the black community. More than 60% of nursing home residents rely on Medicaid. Y'all think about grandma and them right now, and auntie and them right now. This is what they're talking about cutting. Drastic cuts to Medicaid would reduce care and coverage. It would also close healthcare facilities, particularly the ones in the rural areas, and particularly those in the southern rural areas, where the majority of black people that are poor live in the South, and 1/3 of all poor white folk live in the South. We must tell the truth. We must tell the truth. Boston University Medicaid experts have stated that deep cuts would be catastrophic for patients. And we know what we've always said: when the rest of America catches a cold, black folk end up with pneumonia. Medicaid sure needs strengthening, but it doesn't need cutting. In the states that have refused to accept Medicaid expansion, do you know that all of them, except for about 2, are southern states? Southern states, where large portions of black community live, and they refuse to accept Medicaid expansion, hurting both poor blacks and poor whites. All of these southern states, we must tell the truth. They want to cut food assistance. They are considering a long list of proposals that would cut hundreds of billions of dollars out of SNAP, not millions, billions of dollars over the next 10 years. The House budget resolution calls for $230 billion in cuts over the next 10 years. Remember what Isaiah said: woe unto those who legislate evil and rob the poor of their rights? Right now, these proposals could affect 40 million covered people. Watch this. In 2024, SNAP served 41 million people, 1 in 5 children. Of those who benefited, 37% are white, 26% are black, 16% are Latinx, 3% are Asian, and 2% are Native American. We must tell the truth. They want to cut Head Start. Many of us don't remember that Head Start came out of the Poor People's Campaign after Dr. King had been killed. That was one of the things that they won that summer in '68. Head Start preschool serves about 650,000 children around the country. And recently about 650,000 children around the country found they were locked out of a government website used to access grant funding. Many more children are in it than 650,000. The website went back online, but now some of them are still having problems. From 2020 to 2021, 37% of Head Starts were Latinx, 27% were Black, 24% were white, 3% were Native American. And the House budget resolution is calling for $300 billion in cuts over 10 years. We must tell the truth. You have to know the truth. If you don't know the truth, you're not going to understand why we have to be so serious about this resistance. In federal rental assistance, this program serves 5 million poor and low-income households, 69% of whom are children, older Americans, or people with disabilities. At a time of housing affordability crisis, this program is already vastly underfunded. Nearly 23 million low-income renters pay over half of their income on rent, subjecting them to the risk of eviction and homelessness. And just a few weeks ago or months ago, the Supreme Court ruled that you can't even sleep on a bench outside at night if you're homeless. The House budget resolution calls for $1 billion in cuts over 10 years. The truth is also that Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, has said Republicans will not touch Social Security or Medicare. However, it's impossible to achieve Elon Musk's goal of $2 trillion in federal spending without going into Social Security and Medicare. You cannot do it. Social Security. In 2024, 68 million people received Social Security benefits. And in 2023, that program lifted 27.6 million people out of poverty. And Black folk, we need to remember that when Social Security was first put in place in 1954, we could not pay in for the most part. Because the only people that were allowed to pay in were people that did not work in the agrarian culture or in the service culture, i.e. maids. They weren't allowed to pay in. In 1935. We were allowed to pay in 54, the same year as the Brown decision. So it was 19 years before many of our people could even pay into Social Security in the first place. And here we hear they want to go after Social Security. And as of 2021, 42% of Americans aged 56 to 64 had zero retirement account savings. Think about that. Upon retirement, many will be entirely reliant on Social Security, which paid an average monthly benefit of $1,800 a month. And this crowd is saying, in order to give more money to corporations, we're going to go after even Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. Even though they're saying they won't, but there's no way they can't. In 2024, Medicare provided insurance for 61.2 million older Americans and people with disabilities. Cuts to this program would leave millions of seniors struggling even harder to pay their health care bill. And if by now where you're sitting, you're saying this word, damn, that's the word you should be saying. That's the word. The same word Jesus used when he saw that fig tree fronting. That's what you should be saying. They're that ruthless. In 2023, 1 in 4 Medicare beneficiaries lived on incomes below $21,000, while half lived on less than $36,000. People of color have lower median incomes in their retirement years than white Americans, reflecting racial discrimination in education and employment and lower access to pension benefits. And yet, they're going to go after Medicare. In the taxes and inequality in 2017, the Trump GOP tax law delivered huge windfalls to these rich and large corporations. And you know, the corporations said, if you give us a tax cut, we're going to invest it back into the American society. What they did was they used that money to buy their own stocks and propped up their own companies. And that first tax cut was more money transferred from poor and working folk than was transferred during the height of slavery. $2 trillion. The new House budget resolution calls for $4.5 trillion in tax cuts that will benefit the ultra wealthy. In the Republican-held Congress, they want to extend the 2017. Now, if they just did that, they want to do so much more. But if they just did that, the Joint Committee on Taxation estimates that it will cost $4 trillion in lost revenue over the next decade. The way that these people are moving, it could be possible for black folk and brown folk and progressive white folk to win offices and have the government to run, but not have any money to run it on. The benefits of this extension would amount to less than $1 a day for the bottom half of U.S. families, while the richest 0.1% of families would pocket an estimated $314,000 per year. This is the game that they're playing, and it is not a game. This group wants to go after child tax cut credit, even though we found that when you give child tax cut credit, they actually can relieve children from poverty. All the gains that we've seen in employment and wages, you've heard Roland talk about it, are now under threat as this Trump-Musk-Johnson administration and Republicans in the Congress push an economic agenda based on mass deportations, severe cuts to federal spending, and staffing at federal agencies. And you heard me say that their goal is to control 4,000 workers so that they can control 10 million workers. And when we talk about these cuts in the federal government and in the jobs, remember that decent job for black workers make up 18% of federal employees compared to 12% of their share of the total workforce. You have an administration where Scott Bessent, the President Trump's Treasury Secretary, and his Commerce Secretary, all said openly, with not a stutter, in their confirmation hearing that they did not support raising the minimum wage. The minimum wage has been stuck at $7.25 per hour since 2009. If you raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, 43% of black people would come out of poverty with one raise. But they say, if you make $7.25 per hour and you earn $15,080 a year, you're not poor. You're on the lower middle income. And so here we are. And if we don't raise the minimum wage, and if we don't start understanding in our civil rights organizations that you have to connect voting rights and wages. Remember Dr. King in 1965, the end of the Selma to Montgomery March, he said that the greatest fear of the racist oligarchs in this country was the fear of the masses of black people and the masses of poor white people coming together and forming a voting bloc that could fundamentally shift the economic architecture of this nation. They won't raise the minimum wage while more than 1 in 5 black and Hispanic children are poor. And these children are 3 times as likely to fall below the poverty line. Trump wasted no time going after labor. No time. He illegally removed the board chair of the National Labor Relations Board, basically shutting it down, making it so it didn't have a quorum. It's worth adding that the $290 million that Elon Musk paid to influence the 2024 election is on par with the NLRB's $299 million budget. Unions, we know down through life, we fought to get in union. I was telling Roland one day that in 1935, civil rights group and union folk came together to bridge the two, civil rights and unionism. And we wouldn't have some of the improved earnings and working conditions, what we have today, without the focus of unions. Those in unions, their wages are 13.5 times more than those who are non-union. This is the truth. And my friends, I know that sometimes we don't want to hear it and we want a cute bumper sticker or we want a rhyme. But these folk have a plan and it's very statistical. Just like Project 2025, it's written down. And you don't really know how big the fight is and how important the fight is unless you understand. Right now, they're talking about adding $345 billion in new spending to the Pentagon over the next 4 years. 150 billion spending to the Pentagon, 175 billion in mass deportations. And you say, well, Reverend Barber, so what does that have to do with anything? Because the Senate bill alone, $86 billion per year, would provide health insurance for all 4 million uninsured children. If we took that same money, we could expand the enrollment in Head Start for 3.6 million children in poverty. If we took that same money, you could provide public housing for all 3.9 million families who receive eviction notices in a typical year. The truth is, when we look at this, this is a constitutional crisis, which has not been resolved by a system of checks and balances. In violation of the law, Donald Trump and Musk and Johnson are abusing the power of the presidency. They're abusing it by allowing Elon Musk to freeze funding allocated by Congress. The courts have issued injunctions against these illegal acts, but Trump and Musk are defying the rule of law. While Congress has a responsibility to check this abuse of power, it has instead invited its rogue executive to address a joint session of Congress while instructing its committees to prepare a budget based on the same lies that have been used to justify the illegal funding freeze. We must be clear in this confession about the state of our union. Our moral ejection is not about personality. It ain't about style. It's not about political opinions. It's about the size of a government. It's not about the size of a government. It is about the tyranny of technology and our refusal to bow to the God of efficiency, because the distorted faith violates our moral commitment to equality and freedom that an imperfect government was fashioned to sustain. If people's lives and livelihoods can be dismissed as waste without due process, we forsake our moral commitments to equality. So we refuse to bow, because it is, if an unelected technocrat can delete the financial commitments of a government established of and for by the people, we betray our moral commitments if we bow to that. Who knew that one person could give out all your information? That one person could walk in one office and tell one person to push one button and they had access to all of your information, and could then probably on the back end make it so that even if they give the information back, they still have access to it. We refuse to bow, because if political leaders are willing to forsake their oath to establish justice and ensure domestic tranquility in order to appease billionaires, if we bow, we reject our faith and the moral foundations of our common life. We refuse to bow because if Congress does not stand by our commitments to partners and vulnerable neighbors around the world, we will abandon the moral foundations of the fragile peace we hope to sustain. We have to refuse to bow. And the truth is, when and if our political leaders have bowed to fear, to the tyranny of technology, to greed, to supremacy, in doing so, they no longer represent us. A Yale professor just last week said Trump is no longer the president because every day he has violated his oath of office. And so tonight, my family, we who believe in love, justice, and freedom must declare that we are not afraid of the false god of efficiency. We must declare we are not afraid of lies. We're not afraid of greed. We're not afraid of injustice. We're not afraid of religious and white supremacy. And we must declare that bowing down is not an option. It's not in our spiritual or historical DNA. We will not bow to any tyranny that claims that they have control of our common life. Because we know that the people of our communities have power. We actually have power to reclaim our moral commitments. We have power, and it's going to take time, and it will take a sustained effort, but it begins by telling the truth. In South Africa, they used to say, only a dying mule kicks the hardest. Langston Hughes used to say that we must take back our mighty dream again. America's never been America to me, but I swear this oath that America will be. We have power. Did you know Trump, with all their money, won in the battleground states by a total of around 800,000 votes? But in those same states, millions of black people and brown people and poor and working white didn't even vote. And if we began to organize now for 2026 and move and inspire and unite those votes, we can shake the power of this nation. And we have to, because bowing down is not an option. We must reclaim our government. We must reclaim pledging ourselves to the reconstructing of America. We must call on lifting every voice to sing. In 1850, the Dred Scott decision came down, Barbara, and it was a low-down decision. It was a low-down president and a low-down Supreme Court and a low-down Congress. And after the Supreme Court was stacked with slave owners, and they codified white supremacy into law with the Dred Scott decision, and they declared that Chief Justice Taney, who was rushed onto the Supreme Court, he gave in to the slave masters and ruled on the Dred Scott decision, saying that black folk in America didn't have any rights that white people were honored and bound to respect. And in the midst of that, one of the sisters of the movement saw Frederick Douglass depressed, and she asked Frederick one question: is God dead? Are you going to trust Taney? Are you going to trust God? Frederick Douglass said it shook him to his core. He said he had to speak. He got in a speaking engagement with the abolition group and said to them, earth and heaven will despise this edict of Taney. And I want my people to know, he said, as he talked to them, as monstrous as this moment appears, as monstrous as this decision appears, we can meet it in a cheerful spirit, because this very attempt to blot out forever the hopes of an enslaved people may be the one necessary link in the chain of events preparatory to the downfall and the complete overthrow of the entire slave system. Then he said, the whole history of the anti-slavery movement is studied with proof that all measures devised and executed with a view to allow and diminish the anti-slavery agitation has only served every time to increase, intensify, and embolden our agitation. My brothers and sisters, justice-loving Americans, black folk, folk of conscience wherever you are, if Frederick Douglass, an abolitionist, could refuse to bow down in the 1850s, then surely we must declare now that bowing down is not an option. They are afraid of you. They are afraid of your votes. They would not be working this hard to suppress you if they were not afraid. Trump and Musk, even the filing of executive orders is proof of fear, because they know they could never get it passed through the Congress. They are afraid. Their crowd is afraid. They are afraid of the power of love, the power of truth, the power of justice, the power of unity. They are all scared of our power, but they are betting that you will be afraid of them. But this is the time, as Frederick said, to increase, intensify, and embolden our agitation, and to declare that wanting to be a king or want to be king is only a king if we bow down. That's the only way it can be a king, is if we bow down. But bowing down is not an option. My knees and your knees are not made for bowing to a power-drunk neo-fascist. We bow only to God. Otherwise, we stand tall. When they attack everyday people with bad, mean, hurtful policies, we must stand tall and increase and intensify and embolden our agitation and say no. It's time for our pulpits to stand tall, to call on the people to increase, intensify, and embolden our agitation and declare not on our watch. In our protests, we must stand tall and increase, intensify, and embolden our agitation. If black and white folk and women and gay and straight and Christian and Jews and Muslims and Unitarian could do it 60 years ago in Selma, if they could stand tall and advance and never sound retreat, then surely we can stand tall now and intensify and increase and embolden our agitation. We must do it in our organizing. We've got to increase and intensify and embolden our agitation. We've got to stand tall because bowing down is not an option. It may take mass call-ins, but we've got to increase, intensify, and embolden our agitation and stand tall. It may take mass nonviolent sit-ins. It may take mass pray-ins. It may take labor striking on election days to ensure that all the workers are out getting people to the poll. But that's all right. Whatever it takes, we've got to increase, intensify, and embolden our agitation. It may take massive lawsuits and class action lawsuits of the people, but we've got to stand tall. And if we stand tall, their plans won't work. As long as we stick together and stand tall in every precinct, stand tall in every voting district, stand tall in every city, stand tall in every state, stand tall, because what has been created and done can be undone. If we stand in the truth, stand in love, stand in justice, the God of the universe will be with us and change will come. Because when we stand with God's truth and God's love and God's justice, I learned this a long time ago. One can chase 1,000 and two can put 10,000 to flight. Because when we stand with God's truth and God's love, dark Fridays, mean political Fridays can become new Sunday mornings of mercy and righteousness. But when we stand with God's truth and love, ashes of repentance can become great moments of renewal. It's time, y'all. It's time, family. Wherever you are, sitting with a family out there in a church, sitting in your living room, thank God you're hearing this tonight. The lies and the greed cannot have the last word. It's time to increase workers' protests. People can put together their lawsuits. We can do all the kinds of ends we need to do because we love justice and we love righteousness and we hate injustice. We may have to do it all. I suspect we will. I suspect and prophesy tonight that when it gets warmer, you may see in America the same thing you saw in Egypt in places. You may see a fresh freedom summer, organic, just coming up. Because there comes a time, as Dr. King reminded us, people just get tired. Get tired. If they tell you as a worker, you got to leave your job illegally, why don't you just sit there, make them arrest you, and then file a lawsuit against us? Somewhere I read, like Dr. King, we got the right to freedom of speech, we got the right to assembly, we got the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We have all these rights. It's time now to believe it, stand on it, believe it, don't back up from it. We in this moment must use every moral tool at our disposal and every nonviolent method to embolden and intensify our agitation for love and justice and righteousness. Stand up in every pulpit. Stand in every federal job. Stand and protest and expose what they're doing. Stand with every American, no matter who they are. If they believe in one nation under God, indivisible, with life, liberty, and justice for all, stand with them. Flood the congressional phone lines. Flood them with calls of protest and moral dissent. Stand up in the town halls. Go to their offices. Stand with facts and with faith. Stand and don't bow down and declare that as long as you got breath in your body, as long as you're clothed in your right mind, as long as you have a portion of health and strength, because you care about this generation and the generation behind you, stand up, because God can do more with the remnant that will stand than a crowd that will bow. Stand, stand, and don't let anything keep you from standing, because bowing down is not an option now. God bless you. And Lord help America.
told y'all when we were doing this, I said why we were not going to carry the lies of Donald Trump, and he's still lying right now. And I said that we need to hear the state of our union from Reverend Dr. William Barber. That was so on point. It was so unnecessary. We've got a full house of folks joining us virtually. Reverend Frederick Douglass Haynes, the Third Friendship West Baptist Church out of Dallas. My dear Alpha brother, glad to have you here. Pastor Robert.
All right. That was a whole lot. That was a whole lot. Shout out to all you guys for staying engaged in the chat. I very much appreciate that. Shout out to Roland Martin and the Black Star Network for putting all of that together. Shout out to Joy Reid and Angela Rye and all the folks that put together State of the People. This has been really dope. This has been really dope. That was like one of those sermons where that's like one of those sermons where everybody quiet on the way home. Everybody quiet on the way home. You just looking at everybody else in the car, like, you know he's talking about you, right? Okay, all right. I'm just saying, but you know he was talking about you. Welcome to Arrington, by the way. I think I missed that, and thank you to Ice Cold. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I didn't get a chance to welcome Camkin. Welcome, Camkin. And of course, thanks to Dark City, and shout out to TP for his incredible gift. You're one of those people that received that gift. Send a thank you out to TP. And I think that I'm definitely going to take some time and process and reflect. There will be a response. I'm going to have a response that's going to be out tomorrow on the earlier side, so be on the lookout for that. But that was really dope. I definitely appreciate all you guys coming and spending this time here. It's kind of like the conversations that Valerie said, that's the sermon. That's the kind of sermon I hear recently. Yeah, no, we used to that. Yeah, we used to that one. That was a good one. It kind of goes to some of the conversations that I had a while back talking about the community that's been built here on the channel, over and above the videos that I put out. So it was good to see that in action. So I'm gonna get working on this video. Well, I'm gonna process everything that Reverend Barber just laid down. I'm gonna get cranking on this video and send a thank you to Nancy. Thank you very much, Nancy. I very much appreciate that. Thank you to Lucette as well. Shout out to you, Lucette. Thank you. Very much appreciate it. It was amazing, Roberta. It was really good. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Shout out to you, my Meeste. Kiki, same here. That is definitely what a good sermon will do. So I'm gonna get cranking on this response video. I know me and Regina got our work ahead of us, so we're gonna tag team it and figure it out. But be on the lookout for that. We're definitely gonna premiere that. So if you have some more thoughts, definitely shoot it my way. Marcus and Maryland, welcome. Yeah, if you didn't get a chance, Wes Moore put it down as well. Wes Moore was really dope as part of the State of the People. So check that out as well. We have reason to feel pride in my home state of Maryland. So that was really dope. But it's a lot of people out there that are, I guess this would be my walk away, is that there's a lot of people out there that are feeling as despondent as you may feel at any particular moment in time, as dark as it may seem at any particular moment in time. You're definitely not alone. And there are people that are on the front lines and are actively trying to make life better for you, even though it may not seem like it. So it's good when we can find each other in moments like this. Thanks to Bella Fine, very much appreciated. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I must say that it is like the highest hope. Just on a personal note, it was we have a family chat, family group chat, family group text thread that I'm a part of, and one of my cousins actually mentioned, because my mother had sent it out to everybody that this was going on, and as I said in the beginning of this, that's how I found out, was that my parents had sent it, but one of my cousins had texted that I was carrying it live, so they were watching it on my channel, which is pretty cool to be just a small part of being able to spread this message. But shout out to once again to Roland and Joy and Angela Rye and all the people that were a part of it. And thank you guys for being here. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Shout out to Miss Ray for holding everybody down and organizing and whatnot. And I think Dank was here too. Shout out to you, Dank. I appreciate it. And of course, Regina for the work she's about to do. But I'll see you guys tomorrow, and take care of yourselves. Much love. Oh, one last thing. They always say don't do a false goodbye, because then people leave because they think you're saying goodbye. I recorded a video, especially those of you in the DMV, if you know anything about that blackout that happened at BWI yesterday. I happened to be on a plane during that. It was a whole thing. So I'm going to have a video on Whale Waters all about that. So be on the lookout for that. I didn't put it out tonight because of this, but it'll be out tomorrow. I've recorded it already, so be on the lookout for that. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And thank you to Roberta. He got it at the buzzer. Roberta, you got a little Kobe in you. And definitely everybody hit the like button. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Much love.